Welcome. This is your Need to Know. This is an episode recap, so there will be spoilers, sweetie. Music by Sisters AI Rhythmic. Check them out on YouTube.
This is your Need to Know.
Spoiler, sweetie.
This is your Need to Know.
Okay, so we are ready to dive into some internet discourse.
Always fun.
Yeah, always a good time. Today, it's all about She-Hulk, specifically that Disney Plus show, She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. And we're going to be going deep into those Reddit threads.
Oh, yeah.
So we can understand, those wildly different reactions that we saw from the fans.
It's been fascinating to watch, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a case study.
Yeah.
In how fandom reacts to adaptation, especially when a beloved character kind of takes that turn toward the comedic.
For sure, for sure. And we've got a whole stack of comments here, and it's clear that the show really struck a nerve with people.
Mm-hmm.
So in this deep dive, what are we hoping to uncover? I'm thinking like bigger picture,
Okay, yeah.
What does this tell us about fandom, about adaptation, and maybe even a bit about ourselves?
I think you hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
I mean, it's not just about She-Hulk.
Yeah.
It's about how we as fans engage with these stories we love
Mm-hmm.
and how they're translated across different mediums.
Right. And one thing that jumped out at me right away was this whole conversation about YouTube grifters.
Oh, yeah.
And their influence on the negative reactions to the show.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like some fans believe that these influencers are actually like shaping the perception of She-Hulk,
Right.
particularly among those who may not have even watched it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
It's fascinating, isn't it?
it is.
Like this idea that negativity can be profitable.
Yeah.
That there's an entire ecosystem
Wow.
built around fueling that outrage and discontent.
Yeah.
And it's not just limited to She-Hulk either.
Right.
We see this pattern emerge
Uh-huh.
time and time again
Yeah,
with popular franchises.
absolutely. And one commenter even called it grift trash,
Oh, wow.
arguing that these influencers are essentially killing conversations
Well, you sure?
by drowning out any nuanced discussion with their inflammatory rhetoric.
Okay.
Do you think there's any truth to that?
I think it's important to acknowledge the power of algorithms and how they can prioritize content that generates really strong emotional responses, often at the expense of thoughtful discourse.
Right.
Like, these algorithms can create echo chambers where negative opinions are amplified,
Uh-huh.
and it just becomes really difficult to have a balanced conversation.
It's almost like the negativity feeds on itself, creating this like distorted perception of the show
Totally.
that's hard to break free from.
Absolutely. And when those negative perceptions are amplified by influential figures
Right.
with large followings,
Mm-hmm.
it can have a significant impact
Yeah.
on how a show is received,
Uh-huh.
even before people have a chance to form their own opinions.
So then this manipulation of fan perception also ties into the challenges of adaptation, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because we see a lot of debate about how closely the show follows the comics,
Yeah.
with some fans demanding a very faithful adaptation,
Mhm.
while others are embracing a looser interpretation.
It's a constant tension in any adaptation, especially in the age of the internet where fans have instant access to all this information
Yeah.
and can dissect every creative decision.
Like take Mrs. Marvel, for instance.
Okay?
We saw comments from fans like Groucho Razmataz 390,
Okay.
who were really disappointed with the changes to her origin story and her powers.
Right.
They felt the show just deviated way too far from the source material.
It's interesting, though, how prior knowledge of the source material
Yeah.
can shape expectations and even influence, like, the order that people consume media.
That's true.
Some people prefer to experience the adaptation first,
Yeah.
while others dive into the comics to avoid potential spoilers
Right.
or disappointments.
Exactly. And another commenter, Nothing 428, actually suggested watching the show first
Okay.
before reading the comics to avoid that potential letdown.
Interesting.
It's like they're saying, let me enjoy this adaptation on its own terms before I start comparing it to the original.
It raises a key question, though,
Yeah.
right? About adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
Should it be judged solely on its fidelity to the source material?
Yeah.
Or should we allow for some creative liberties
Right.
and evaluate it on its own merits?
It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
And these debates get even more heated when we look at the discussions surrounding She-Hulk's personality.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many comments criticizing her for being too mean
Okay.
compared to the Hulk,
Uh,
and this whole back and forth about whether anger should even be her defining trait.
right.
I mean, did the writers completely miss the mark here, or are they trying to do something different with the character?
I think it's more nuanced than simply missing the mark.
Okay.
Adapting a complex character
Yeah.
from one medium to another
Right.
is inherently challenging.
Yeah.
What works in the pages of a comic book
Mhm.
might not translate seamlessly to the screen.
Right.
It's about capturing the essence of that character,
Yeah.
not necessarily replicating every single detail.
So it's about finding that balance, right? Between staying true to that source material
Right.
and allowing for creative reinterpretations that fit the new medium.
Exactly. And we see this in the show's portrayal of Abomination as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, his characterization is very different
Yeah.
from what we saw in that 2008 Incredible Hulk movie,
Right.
which some fans see as a betrayal of the established MCU continuity.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the MCU is constantly evolving.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
New writers and directors bring their own interpretations to these characters.
Right.
And it's inevitable that some of those choices are going to spark debate.
That's the beauty of a shared universe, like the MCU.
Yeah.
It's constantly growing and changing, which keeps things fresh and exciting,
Yeah.
but also leads to these fascinating clashes of perspectives within the fandom.
Speaking of clashes, let's tackle the humor divide.
Okay.
She-Hulk leans into comedy more than most MCU projects,
It does.
and that proved to be quite divisive.
It did.
Some viewers found it refreshing, while others thought it was like cringy or forced.
Right.
I mean, was it just a matter of taste, or was there something fundamentally different about the type of humor used in She-Hulk?
Humor is incredibly subjective,
It is.
but I think it's worth analyzing why certain jokes landed for some viewers and not for others.
Okay.
You know, She-Hulk utilizes a lot of meta humor
Yeah.
and self-awareness,
Right.
which can be hit or miss
Yeah.
depending on your comedic sensibilities.
True.
It's a riskier approach,
For sure.
especially in a franchise known for its action and drama.
It's like they're trying to poke fun at the genre itself,
Yeah.
which can be refreshing for some, but jarring for others who prefer a more straightforward approach.
Exactly.
Um,
And that meta humor is often intertwined with the show's exploration of gender dynamics,
Right.
which is another area where we see strong reactions.
Right. This strong woman trope is a major point of contention,
It is.
with some viewers celebrating She-Hulk's female-centric narrative,
Ugh.
while others see it as pushing a specific agenda.
Okay.
I mean, is it even possible to have a powerful female superhero without getting bogged down in these debates?
It's a complex issue.
It is.
And She-Hulk doesn't shy away from those complexities.
Yeah.
The show explores what it means to be a powerful woman in a world that's often dominated by men.
Right.
And that exploration is bound to elicit strong reactions,
Yeah.
both positive and negative.
For example, there are comments about She-Hulk's strength
Okay.
being constantly compared to the Hulk's.
Right.
And some even objectify her with terms like "dommy muscle mommy."
Oh, wow.
It's like there's this underlying discomfort
Yeah.
with a woman being presented as physically powerful and assertive.
It speaks to the ingrained societal expectations surrounding gender roles.
Right.
And how those expectations are challenged by a character like She-Hulk,
Right.
who defies those traditional notions of femininity.
And that defiance is further emphasized in that scene,
Yeah.
where she tells the Hulk that he doesn't understand her struggles as a woman.
Oh, that scene definitely ignited some fiery discussions.
It did.
Some viewers saw it as a valid exploration of the unique challenges
Yeah.
that women face,
Right.
while others interpreted it as an attempt to undermine the Hulk
Uh-huh.
and elevate She-Hulk at his expense.
Was that scene a necessary exploration of gender dynamics, or did it cross a line?
I think it's crucial to acknowledge that a single scene
Yeah.
can be interpreted in vastly different ways,
Right.
depending on the viewer's perspective and their pre-existing beliefs.
Yeah.
It's a testament to the show's willingness
Okay.
to engage with sensitive topics,
Uh-huh.
but it also highlights the importance of approaching those topics with nuance
Right.
and understanding that not everyone will agree with the approach.
It's like the show is holding up a mirror to society,
Yeah.
reflecting back our own biases and preconceived notions about gender,
Right.
And that can be uncomfortable for some viewers who aren't ready to confront those issues.
Precisely. And that discomfort is often amplified by the show's meta-commentary and fourth wall-breaking moments,
Right.
which culminate in that incredibly divisive meta-finale.
Oh, we can't ignore the elephant-sized fourth wall-breaking Hulk in the room.
Right.
That finale really went all in on meta-narrative,
It did.
with She-Hulk literally rewriting the show's ending.
Yeah.
Talk about a bold move.
It was a risky decision
It was.
that challenged traditional narrative expectations.
Yeah,
And sparked a lot of debate.
it did.
Some viewers applauded the show's self-awareness and its willingness to subvert the tropes of the superhero genre,
Right.
while others saw it as a lazy cop-out or even an attack on the fans themselves.
Some comments even suggested that the finale, while acknowledging the show's perceived flaws,
Right.
didn't actually fix them.
Okay.
It's like they're saying, sure, you're self-aware, but did you actually learn anything?
Yes.
And then there's this whole idea that the show was attacking its critics,
Okay.
particularly in the finale.
Right.
Was it just playful meta-commentary, or did it cross a line?
It's a fine line
It is.
between playful self-awareness
Yeah.
and coming across as defensive or dismissive.
Right.
When a show directly addresses its critics,
Mm-hmm.
it can feel confrontational,
Yeah.
especially for those who feel strongly about their opinions.
It's like the show was saying,
Yeah.
if you don't like our unconventional approach, then you're just part of the problem,
Yeah.
which might have alienated some viewers who were otherwise enjoying the ride.
It's a reminder that even in a meta-narrative,
Yeah.
tone and intent can be misconstrued.
Right.
What might seem like harmless fun to some can be interpreted as a personal attack by others.
Okay, before we get too meta ourselves,
Okay.
let's shift gears and talk about a more technical aspect.
Right.
The visuals,
Okay.
specifically the CGI. We saw a lot of threads dedicated to critiquing the quality of the special effects,
Right.
with many comments targeting She-Hulk herself.
Okay.
Was this just nitpicking?
Yeah.
Or was there a legitimate issue with the CGI?
CGI in television shows
Yeah.
often faces budgetary and time constraints
Right.
that can impact the final product.
Yeah.
She-Hulk was no exception.
Right.
And the visual effects,
Uh-huh.
particularly those involving the main character, drew a mixed response.
A lot of the comments used words like rushed, cheap, and uncanny
Right.
to describe the CGI.
Yeah.
It seems like some viewers found it distracting,
Yeah.
and it took away from their enjoyment of the show. Did the show fall victim to the dreaded uncanny valley effect?
The uncanny valley effect is a real challenge for CGI characters,
It is.
particularly those meant to mimic human likeness.
Right.
She-Hulk faced the additional hurdle of creating a believable transformation
Yeah.
between Jennifer Walters' human form and her hulking alter ego.
And it's not just about technical execution either. It's also about those aesthetic choices.
Yeah.
Some viewers might have found the design of She-Hulk herself to be jarring or off-putting,
Right.
regardless of the CGI quality.
That's right. The design of a CGI character can significantly impact how it's received.
Yeah.
And She-Hulk presented a unique challenge in that regard.
Finally, let's talk about the legal accuracy.
Court-
Or perhaps the lack thereof
Right.
in She-Hulk. The attorney at law. It's right there in the title.
Yeah.
Yet many fans felt the show didn't deliver on the promise of compelling courtroom drama or legal depth. Did the show miss an opportunity to explore the legal complexities of a world with superheroes?
I think it's fair to say that the show prioritized its comedic and meta-narrative elements
Okay.
over delving into the intricacies of legal proceedings.
Right.
The courtroom scenes,
Yeah.
while entertaining,
Uh-huh.
often felt lighthearted
Right.
and lacking in the kind of legal depth that some viewers were hoping for.
We even saw a comment
Uh-huh.
mentioning that the show's writer admitted to not being familiar with legal proceedings.
Really?
Yeah. It's like some viewers felt that this lack of research showed in the writing
Interesting.
and resulted in unrealistic or underwhelming courtroom scenes.
Okay.
I was hoping for like a Daredevil level legal showdown.
Right.
Did the lack of legal depth disappoint you?
Well, the show might not have satisfied those craving hardcore legal drama.
Yeah.
I found it refreshing that they didn't try to force it.
Okay.
The focus on Jen's personal journey
Right.
and her struggles with balancing her superhero identity with her legal career felt more compelling to me
Okay.
than any procedural courtroom drama could have been.
So it's not necessarily about being legally accurate,
Right.
but about being true to the character and her story.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means sacrificing realism
Yeah.
in favor of character development and emotional resonance.
Well, this deep dive has already revealed some fascinating complexities. It's clear that She-Hulk sparked passionate debate, both for its creative choices
Yeah.
and its willingness to push boundaries.
Right.
But before we wrap up part one,
Okay.
any final thoughts on this whirlwind of fan reactions?
I think it's a testament to the show's ambition
Yeah, okay.
and its willingness to spark these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
It's a show that's not afraid to challenge conventions and take risks,
Yeah.
even if those risks don't always pay off.
Right.
But maybe that's what makes it so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
It's a show that's as complex and multifaceted as its titular character.
Yeah,
And it's left us with plenty to ponder about the future of the MCU.
absolutely. She-Hulk definitely threw a gamma-powered wrench into the MCU machine.
It did.
And it's going to be interesting to see how those ripples play out in the future.
Oh, sure.
But before we get too ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
let's take a moment to process all this juicy discourse.
Okay.
We'll be back soon to unpack what this all means for the future of the MCU.
This is what you need to know. This is what you need to know. This is what you need to know. This is what you need to know.
Yeah, it's clear from these Reddit threads that She-Hulk, attorney at law, has really stirred up the fandom.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's fascinating that something as seemingly straightforward as a superhero show can spark such intense and diverse reactions.
Well, the MCU has always been more than just capes and tights.
True,
Mhm.
true. But I think She-Hulk took that a step further by engaging with real-world issues like, gender dynamics and the challenges faced by women in male-dominated fields that's bound to ruffle some feathers.
Yeah, it's like the show threw a gamma-powered wrench into that traditional superhero formula, and some fans weren't quite ready for the tonal shift.
And speaking of tonal shifts, let's circle back to the legal aspect of the show.
Okay.
It's called She-Hulk, attorney at law, yet some fans felt it didn't deliver enough courtroom drama or legal depth.
I think the show's creators made a conscious decision to prioritize those comedic and meta-narrative elements over intricate legal proceedings.
You're right. It's like they were saying, we're not trying to be a legal drama. We're a superhero comedy with a legal backdrop.
Exactly. And while some viewers might have been disappointed by that lack of legal rigor, I think it's important to remember that not every superhero story needs to be grounded in gritty realism.
Yeah, it's about finding the right balance,
Right.
between entertainment value and thematic depth. And in the case of She-Hulk, the humor and meta-commentary were clearly front and center.
And that humor often served to highlight the absurdity of the situations Jen found herself in,
Yeah.
both as a lawyer and as a superhero.
It's like the show was saying, hey, look at this crazy world we've built with superheroes and supervillains, and let's not take ourselves too seriously.
Precisely. And that self-awareness was both refreshing and divisive.
Right.
Some viewers loved the show's willingness to poke fun at itself and the superhero genre, while others felt it undermined the stakes and the emotional core of the story.
It's interesting how humor can be such a subjective and polarizing element in storytelling. What one person finds hilarious, another might find cringeworthy.
It's all about comedic sensibilities and personal preferences. She-Hulk embraced a specific type of humor that didn't resonate with everyone, but it certainly found its audience among those who appreciate a more meta and self-referential approach.
And that meta-humor was often intertwined with the show's exploration of gender dynamics, which is another area where we see a wide range of reactions.
From the comments, we've seen some viewers celebrated the show's female-centric narrative and its portrayal of a powerful woman navigating a male-dominated world.
While others felt that the show was too heavy-handed in its messaging, or that it focused too much on Jen's experiences as a woman at the expense of other aspects of the story.
It's understandable that a show tackling such sensitive and complex themes would elicit a variety of responses. It's a testament to the show's ambition and its willingness to engage with these issues, even if it didn't always strike the perfect balance for every viewer.
I think it's important to acknowledge that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to representing these experiences and that different viewers will connect with the show in different ways.
Exactly, and sometimes just sparking the conversation is a valuable step in itself, even if not everyone agrees on the approach or the execution.
Right. And let's not forget that meta-finale, it really divided viewers with some praising its boldness and others criticizing it as a cop-out.
That finale was a masterclass in meta-narrative. She-Hulk literally broke through the fourth wall to rewrite her own story.
It was a daring move that subverted expectations and challenged that traditional superhero formula.
Some viewers loved the show's self-awareness and its willingness to play with the conventions of the genre,
While others felt like the meta-ending undermined the emotional stakes of the story or that it was a lazy way to resolve the conflicts.
I think it's important to recognize that the meta-finale was a deliberate artistic choice. It was a statement about the nature of storytelling and the power of narrative control.
It's like the show is saying, hey, we know you're expecting a typical superhero climax, but what if we'd flipped the script and gave you something completely unexpected?
And that unpredictability was both exhilarating and unsettling for viewers. It challenged their assumptions about what a superhero story should be.
And it certainly got people talking, which is perhaps the ultimate goal of any thought-provoking piece of entertainment.
Absolutely. Whether you loved it or hated it, the meta-finale of She-Hulk left an undeniable mark on the MCU and sparked a conversation about the boundaries of storytelling in the superhero genre.
It's a reminder that these stories don't always have to follow a predictable path, and that sometimes the most rewarding experiences come from subverting expectations and embracing the unexpected.
And as the MCU continues to expand and evolve, it'll be interesting to see how these meta-narrative elements and unconventional approaches to storytelling continue to shape the future of the franchise.
Speaking of the future of the MCU, we saw a lot of discussion about whether there's even room for a show like She-Hulk in a franchise that's increasingly focused on interconnected narratives and epic stakes.
It's a valid question. The MCU is at a crossroads right now, trying to balance its established formula with a desire to explore new genres and tones.
She-Hulk was a bit of an experiment in that regard, pushing the boundaries of what a superhero story could be.
And while it might not have pleased everyone, it's certainly demonstrated that there's an appetite for different types of stories within the MCU.
Maybe it's not about fitting into a predetermined mold, but about expanding the definition of what an MCU project can be.
Exactly, and I think that's ultimately a positive thing. It keeps the franchise fresh and exciting and allows for a wider range of voices and perspectives to be represented.
And as we move into Phase 5 and beyond of the MCU, it'll be fascinating to see how these experiments continue to shape the landscape of superhero storytelling.
I'm particularly intrigued by the potential for more meta-narrative elements to be incorporated into future projects.
It's like the MCU is becoming increasingly self-aware, acknowledging its own tropes and conventions and playing with them in unexpected ways.
And that self-awareness can be a powerful tool for both humor and social commentary.
It allows the creators to address the criticisms and expectations head-on and to engage with the audience in a more direct and playful way.
And as the lines between fiction and reality continue to blur in our increasingly meta-obsessed culture, I think we can expect to see even more of these self-referential elements in the MCU.
It's like the fourth wall is becoming more porous and the characters are becoming more aware of their own existence as fictional constructs.
Which opens up a whole new realm of storytelling possibilities. It allows for a more interactive and participatory experience where the audience is in on the joke.
And it can also lead to some really thought-provoking commentary on the nature of storytelling and the power of narrative.
It's like the MCU is not only entertaining us, but also making us question the very stories we're consuming.
And that's a sign of a truly engaging and evolving franchise, one that's not afraid to push boundaries and challenge our expectations.
And as we delve deeper into these Reddit threads, we're seeing that She-Hulk has sparked a broader conversation about the role of CGI in superhero storytelling.
Yeah, it's clear that the visual effects in She-Hulk were a major point of contention for many fans. Some felt that the CGI was subpar, especially for the main character.
And it's important to acknowledge that CGI in television shows often faces limitations due to budget and time constraints.
But I think the criticisms went beyond just technical execution. There was also a discussion about the aesthetic choices, particularly the design of She-Hulk herself.
Some viewers found her appearance to be too cartoonish or uncanny, while others felt that it was a faithful adaptation of her comic book counterpart.
It's a reminder that CGI characters, especially those meant to resemble humans, are constantly walking a tightrope between realism and stylistic interpretation.
And as technology continues to advance, and the boundaries between real and virtual become increasingly blurred, the expectations for CGI and superhero storytelling will only continue to rise.
And that raises some interesting questions about the future of visual effects in the MCU. Will they strive for hyperrealism or embrace a more stylized approach?
I think it will depend on the specific project and the creative vision of the filmmakers. But one thing is for sure, CGI will continue to play a crucial role in bringing these fantastical worlds and characters to life.
And as audiences become more discerning and technologically savvy, the pressure will be on to deliver visual effects that are both technically impressive and aesthetically pleasing.
It's a constant evolution, and I'm excited to see how the MCU continues to push the boundaries of what's possible with CGI.
I think it's also worth noting that the CGI discourse surrounding She-Hulk highlights a broader issue in the entertainment industry, the often unappreciated and underpaid labor of visual effects artists.
Absolutely. These artists are incredibly talented and dedicated, but they often work under immense pressure with tight deadlines and demanding expectations.
And I think it's important to recognize their contributions and to advocate for fair working conditions and compensation within the VFX industry.
It's a reminder that behind every stunning visual effect is a team of skilled professionals who deserve our respect and appreciation.
Well, this deep dive has certainly revealed the multifaceted nature of the She-Hulk discourse, from the comedic choices to the exploration of gender dynamics and the role of CGI in superhero storytelling.
It's a testament to the show's ambition and its willingness to spark these conversations, even if those conversations aren't always easy or comfortable.
It's like She-Hulk threw a gamma-powered grenade into the fandom, and we're still picking up the pieces and trying to make sense of the blast radius.
But amidst all the chaos and debate, I think one thing is clear. She-Hulk, attorney at law, has left an undeniable mark on the MCU, and its legacy will continue to be discussed and dissected for years to come.
It's a show that challenged conventions, pushed boundaries, and sparked important conversations, and that's something worth celebrating even if you didn't love every single creative choice.
Exactly. She-Hulk was a bold experiment, and while not all experiments are successful, they all contribute to the evolution of storytelling and the expansion of creative possibilities.
And as we wrap up part 2 of our deep dive into the She-Hulk discourse, I'm left with a sense of excitement for the future of the MCU.
I agree. It's a franchise that's constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible in superhero storytelling, and I can't wait to see what they come up with next.
And with that, we'll take a quick pause to gather our thoughts and prepare for our final descent into the depths of the She-Hulk discourse. We'll be back soon to explore the implications of these fan reactions and what they might mean for the future of the MCU. Okay, so we're back, ready to wrap up our deep dive into all this She-Hulk discourse.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It has been.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, YouTube grifters, challenges of adaptation, the humor, divide complexities of representing strong women in media.
I mean, we even touched on those technical aspects.
Oh, yeah.
Like the CGI and the legal accuracy or lack thereof in the show.
For sure, for sure. But I think the most important question we need to address is the what does all of this mean
Yeah.
for the future of the MCU?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Is there even room for a show like She-Hulk in
Yeah.
a franchise that seems to be increasingly focused on interconnected narrative
Right.
and epic stakes?
I think the answer is a resounding yes.
Oh, okay.
The MCU is not this like monolithic entity, right?
Yeah.
It's this constantly evolving and expanding universe
Yeah.
with room for a variety of genres and tones and perspectives.
I agree. She-Hulk proved that there's definitely an audience out there
Yeah.
for superhero stories that are more comedic, more meta-narrative,
Yeah.
and more character-driven.
It challenged that traditional superhero formula
It did,
and expanded the definition of what an MCU project can be.
for sure.
Yeah.
And while it might not have been a perfect experiment,
Yeah,
it certainly sparked some important conversations
it did.
and pushed the boundaries of storytelling
Right.
in the superhero genre.
I think one of the key takeaways from this deep dive
Yeah.
is that the MCU is no longer just about catering to a single core audience. It's about embracing diversity,
Yeah.
both in terms of representation and in terms of storytelling approaches.
Right. The MCU is becoming more inclusive or
Absolutely.
experimental
For sure.
and more willing to take risks.
I agree, and those risks won't always pay off.
But they're essential for keeping the franchise fresh and engaging.
Right. The MCU needs to appeal to both longtime fans and newcomers.
It does.
And the only way to do that is by constantly evolving and pushing those boundaries of what's possible.
And I think She-Hulk was a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
It showed that the MCU can embrace humor and self-awareness and social commentary without sacrificing the heart and the action that fans have come to expect.
Right. It also highlighted the importance of representation.
Absolutely.
And the power of seeing diverse characters and stories on screen.
Yeah.
She-Hulk gave us a powerful female superhero.
She did.
Who was not afraid to embrace her strength, her intelligence, and her femininity.
For sure. And that's a message that resonates with audiences around the world.
So as we look to the future of the MCU, I'm excited to see how they continue to build upon the foundation laid by She-Hulk.
I think we can expect to see more experimentation,
Yeah.
more diversity, and more stories that challenge our expectations.
The MCU is not afraid to take risks, and that's what makes it so exciting.
It's a universe that's constantly evolving and expanding.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see what the future holds.
And as for a final provocative thought for our listeners,
Okay.
I want to leave you with this. If you could rewrite She-Hulk's story, what would you change?
Ooh, interesting.
Would you lean further into the comedy,
Yeah.
embrace the legal drama, or go full-on action spectacular? Would you double down on the meta commentary?
Yeah.
Or try to find a more balanced approach?
The beauty of storytelling is that there are infinite possibilities.
Right.
And the only limit is our imagination.
So go forth, dear listener, and create your own She-Hulk story, one that reflects your vision and your voice.
Yeah. And remember, the conversation doesn't end here.
Right.
The She-Hulk discourse is just one small part of a much larger dialogue about the future of entertainment
Yeah.
and the power of representation.
So keep those conversations going, keep challenging the status quo, and keep demanding more from the stories we consume.
Because when we engage with media critically and thoughtfully,
Yeah.
we have the power to shape the world around us.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into the She-Hulk discourse. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the internet's most passionate opinions.
This is your need to know.
She-Hulk's got green, and she's feeling mean. In the court or the street, she's a smashing machine. Tears through walls with the devil may care. Comic book world, better beware. Jennifer's brain with the heart of a beast, fighting for justice while rocking the East. Fourth wall's trembling when she makes her cue. Readers and villains don't know what to do. Hey there, reader, are you ready to play? She-Hulk's coming to turn night into day. Smash through the panels, break free from the page. Comics will never be the same again. She's lawyering up while she's bringing the pain. Gavel or fist, she can spark up a chain. Heroes and villains take heed of her shout. Once she smashes in, there's no getting out. She-Hulk, she knows you're there reading her lines. Fourth wall be breaking time after time. With a wink and a nod, she's in on the game. Changing the rules, you'll be calling her name. Hey there, reader, are you ready to play? She-Hulk's coming to turn night into day. Smash through the panels, break free from the page. Comics will never be the same again. She-Hulk